The restaurant was softly lit, a warm little Italian spot where faint jazz drifted through the air. I was there for a business dinner. My tie loosened after a draining day when I saw her. Laura, my ex-wife, sitting across the room. It had been 7 years since the divorce, the bitter collapse of a 10-year marriage that had left both of us scarred. I froze mid-bite, fork suspended, as her familiar laugh carried over. She looked almost the same, auburn hair, lively gestures, but the sight of her sparked a flood of emotions I hadn't felt in years. Nostalgia mixed with unease. Approaching her hadn't been on my mind. The last words we exchanged were in a lawyer's office, shouted and raw. Hardly the kind that lead to friendly encounters. Yet when our eyes locked across the crowded dining room, she smiled, small but genuine, and I felt my heart pound. I excused myself from my colleagues and walked toward her. "It's been a while," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Her smile grew, though her eyes carried caution. "Long time no see, David," she replied, motioning to the empty chair across from her. Whoever she was with had stepped away, leaving us a brief moment. We eased into small talk, the kind strangers share when waiting at a bus stop. She was now a marketing director in the city, no husband, no kids. I told her about my tech career, my apartment downtown, and my quiet, routine life. Inevitably, the divorce surfaced, not directly but through small mentions. Her reference to selling our old house, my comment about the freedom of being single. On the surface it was polite, almost mechanical, yet beneath it all lingered the ghosts of everything unspoken. The fights, the late-night reconciliations, the love that had frayed until it snapped. She lifted her wine glass, her fingers circling the stem in a gesture I remembered all too well. "You look good," she said. I laughed it off with a joke about my gray hair, but her words clung to me, stirring memories. Mornings in our old kitchen, her teasing me over burnt toast. I wanted to ask if she ever thought back to those days. Instead, I asked about her work. She lit up, describing a campaign she'd led, her enthusiasm still as contagious as ever. For a moment, it felt like no time had passed, like we were still us. Her companion returned then, a tall man named Chris, polite smile, who introduced himself as a co-worker. I prepared to leave them to their evening, but Laura touched my arm. "Stay for a drink," she said, her tone soft yet insistent. I hesitated, then sat back down, ignoring Chris's quick glance. The three of us talked, though it was really Laura and me carrying the flow. Chris seemed to notice, his smile tightening, but he stayed courteous. As the restaurant emptied and grew quiet, Chris stepped away to take a call, leaving Laura and me alone again. The atmosphere shifted. "Do you ever wonder what went wrong?" she asked, her gaze searching mine. "Every day that first year," I admitted. "Less now." She nodded slowly. "I blamed you for a long time," she confessed. Then I realized we both let it fall apart. It wasn't quite an apology, but it felt like one. We talked cautiously about the past, as though walking over broken glass. She spoke of her anger, how my long hours felt like abandonment. I admitted my resentment, how her need to control everything pushed me away. It wasn't healing exactly, but it was real, something we had never managed back then. I saw her differently now, not as the villain I had made her in my mind, but as someone who had been hurting too. Time had softened the sharp edges of our pain, leaving space for this fragile honesty. Chris came back, and the moment dissolved. I stood, this time for good, and so did she. "It was good to see you, David," she said warmly, though her tone made it final. "Take care, Laura," I replied. We didn't exchange numbers, didn't promise to keep in touch. I returned to my table, my colleagues' voices faint in the background, feeling lighter, as if I'd finally set down a weight I'd been dragging for years. Later that night, back in my apartment, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat by the window, the city lights stretching out below. I thought of Laura, of the life we'd shared and lost. 7 years ago, I couldn't have imagined this, us sitting together, laughing, talking without bitterness. I wondered if she was thinking of me, or if she had already slipped back into her evening with Chris. Either way, it didn't ache the way it once would have. The night felt calm, not with regret, but with clarity. Laura and I weren't meant to stay together, But we weren't destined to be enemies either. That chance encounter hadn't erased the past, but it had closed the chapter, not with drama, but with quiet acceptance. I finished my drink, the faint echo of jazz still in my head, and went to bed, for the first time in years, at peace with her memory.